Thanks for tuning in to Golf Talk here on Proline TV. Greg DePalma here as we are going to do something a little bit special this week. We are going to preview, believe it or not, the 2025 season in late January. But the reason for this, as we've said over the last few weeks, is we wanted to be able to not only take a few weeks just to kind of see how things were going. It's been a long football season, and we still haven't seen even players like Scotty Scheffler and so forth. But a lot of what we're going to do today is really predictions. And so nothing that's really happened over the last 3 weeks would have changed what we're going to do here today, except just make us a little bit more smarter and give you the best possible information so you can have a really good year handicapping golf. So let's first of all, of course, introduce my weekly partner this year, and that's Brady Cannon. How's it going, Brady?
Very good, Greg. Good to be with you once again.
Fresh off a win, Harris English coming through. That's now 2 wins out of 4 on the season. Nice job.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's knock on wood, man. It's a pretty good start. It really started last fall. I hit Kevin Yu at the Sanderson Farms Championship in October, and I think he was 150 to 1. He was a big number. And then in November, I had 3 straight runner-up finishes. I had Carson Young in Mexico, Andrew Novak in Bermuda, and then Daniel Berger at the RSM Classic. And then finally, we took it one step further, and Scotty Scheffler made it easy on me. I got him for a winner at the Hero World Challenge in December, and then, like you're talking about, we hit it off and running in 2025 with Matsuyama, and then English last week. So we just hope to keep it going.
So it's a great start. Of course, all of that is considered still for the 2025. And we're going to get into all of that real soon. But I want to introduce Jared Smolla, my old weekly partner here, who is with me for the last couple of years. He's had to take a little step back. Brady is taking over for now. And Jared, good to have you back. How's it been?
Yeah, I didn't have Harris English last week. I'm glad you got a real professional on here now in Brady. But yeah, glad to be back out of retirement here briefly. I do miss doing the shows with you, Greg, but other stuff has gotten in the way for me.
Well, that's a good thing. That means you're busy, and that's really good. How's golf been treating you?
I did hit Substraka 2 weeks ago, so
good for you.
I'm on the board after what was a down 2024. So hopefully, I got to start watching your show again and tailing Brady at least. I don't know about you, Greg, but
well, I've actually been I've moved on over to Fantasy National, so that's really been a big help. I know you've talked a lot about that as your handicapping tool the last couple of years.
Yep, still my go-to site for all the stats I have mentioned in the past and will be mentioning today.
Same for you, Brady.
I tell you what, Jared, if you can hit a winner at the American Express, I tip my cap to you, man. That is one hard tournament to predict.
That was definitely my first time hitting the Amex. So,
yeah, I still am drawing a goose egg for that tournament. I was talking about this with Greg. I was thinking, have I hit an outright in every tournament? And there's certainly a lot of them and some runner-ups and stuff. But boy, I've never really come close at the American Express. It's a tough one.
Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to make some really cool predictions here now. And we're going to use the Draft Kings board for some of these. And I was actually kind of surprised. I don't know if you guys have seen any, but I've never been able to find anybody. I don't know. It is Vegas. I'm sure Vegas provides a whole lot of everything, Brady, but I haven't been able to find any of the sports books, or at least the ones I use, that cover like who's going to win PGA Tour Player of the Year or who's going to win the FedEx Cup, things of that, especially the FedEx Cup. That surprises me that I've never seen any futures for that.
I think I have FedEx Cup with the local Westgate Superbook here.
Yeah, of course you do. You're in Vegas.
I want to. Greg, I know
not everyone offers it. The Circa, which is a big time sports betting casino here, has the Masters futures up, but that's it. But when you go to the Westgate, they have the Masters, the PGA, the British, the U.S. Open, and the FedEx Cup. Scotty Scheffler, of course, the favorite at plus 250. Xander Schauffele at plus 650. Rory at 10 to 1. Morikawa 12 to 1, and on down. Now, Player of the Year is a great question, Greg. I don't really think anybody offers a market on that.
Yeah.
And I think it's because it's essentially a vote,
Yeah.
it's kind of like, for a long time, you couldn't bet on necessarily MVP and, stuff like that. That, of course, now you can vote on. But player of the year, I have never seen a market on that. And I wish there was, because, the last couple of years, we've had some shows where we've tried to predict it, and I've been pretty decent about it. But FedEx Cup, yeah, for sure. You'll find that market and already up in some shops around the world.
Okay, so let's get right to it. And you've got the odds for the FedEx, so you can give that to us. What we're going to do is, first of all, let's start with the PGA Tour Player of the Year. So Brady, when it's all said and done, is this just going to be same old, and Scotty Scheffler is going to do it once again, or do you have someone else in mind?
I've got Hideki Matsuyama as the player of the year on the PGA Tour this year. Obviously, I'm a little bit ahead of it because he's already got a win under his belt.
Well, you see, it helps you.
It does. And, there's a trend as well for the winner at the Century. I want to say, I don't know, 9 out of the last 10, 14 out of the last 15, whatever winners of the initial tournament there in Kapalua in January. They've basically all gone on to go to the Tour Championship. They basically all finished in the top 30 in the money list or the FedEx Cup standings, what have you, and made it to that final tournament. So that's a great start just to get into that, final FedEx Cup playoff event, the Tour Championship, which of course is going to go a long way to who's going to be the player of the year. And we'll get into some other stuff that, reasons I like Matsuyama. But I mean, you talked about it, Greg, that we kind of have used the first 3 or 4 or 5 weeks to kind of, get a look at who's really doing well. Matsuyama really looks good. Obviously has the win already, but I think it could be a great year for him. So he's my pick, player of the year.
Okay, Jared.
Well, that's funny, Greg. I know you had us, pick a couple guys potentially for this, just in case someone got stolen. Hideki Matsuyama, excuse me, was my backup pick for this pick. So I'm definitely with Brady there.
Right.
I like that call. He's playing awesome. My pick for this, and Greg, you won't be surprised, is Colin Morikawa. Mm-hmm. He's the wins haven't been there for him lately, but he's done everything else. If you look at strokes gained total since the start of 2024, Scotty Scheffler's number 1. Colin Morikawa's number 2. So, in terms of just strokes gained total, who's playing the best, not, just discarding if you're winning tournaments, Morikawa's been the second best player in golf since the start of 2024. We know he's an accurate driver. We know he's a top 5, maybe a top 3 approach player in the world. It looks like he's figured out the short game now too, though. If you look over his last 10 events, he's gained around the green in all 10 of those events. He's gained putting in 8 of those 10 events. So if he can just be an above average short game player with the elite ball striking, I think Morikawa could win 3-4 times this year.
And I've already gone out of order. I should have gone next, but I'm glad that you didn't pick my choice anyway, which is actually going to be Xander Schauffele. And look, you and I were very hard on Schauffele for a while because he just hadn't yet come up big in the big spots. And then all of a sudden, once I forget which one it was that he broke down that barrier last year. As it happens, we say it all the time. Once you get that first one, the rest will come. And that's exactly what's happened with Xander. And I expect him to have an even better 2025 campaign. So now let me ask you guys, do you think that it's a foregone conclusion that if you win player of the year, that your chances are, give me a percentage, Brady, of if you win player of the year that you're going to win the FedEx Cup?
Yeah, it's a good question. Let's see. So Scotty Scheffler won them both last year. But I believe the year prior, it was Victor Hovland who won the FedEx Cup, but I think Scheffler was player of the year once again. So it doesn't always match up, but I would say more than half the time, probably, Greg.
I guess that it depends too. If you win a major, and that's one of the things that we talked about last week with Scheffler, is that even though he has a long career ahead of him, not winning a major outside of the Masters, you do wonder whether or not if that happens again and someone else maybe wins a major and is in the top 5, or maybe he wins a major in the FedEx and Scotty has a really great year again, maybe that type of player will win Player of the Year because he's got the major and the FedEx. Because anybody who wins a major and a FedEx, I mean, it's going to be, unless it's, again, especially if it's not Scotty Scheffler, that would be a nice discussion to have.
Well, Schauffele last year had 2 majors, and I believe going into the FedEx Cup was number 2 or 3 in the standings. So he could have easily won the FedEx Cup and 2 majors and may have still not won Player of the Year. I think what did it for me with Scotty was when he won the Olympics, when he won the gold medal in the Olympics, and just an unbelievable comeback. I think he was down by 6 shots with maybe 8 holes to play. Yeah. That was the nail in the coffin for me right there.
And that was one of those live betting opportunities that I remember taking advantage of. I remember seeing Scotty, I forget what the odds were, but I remember getting really good value. He might've been like 20 to 1 or 15 to 1 at some point. And that's why live betting is a really cool thing to have in professional golf. I like it. I know a lot of people do first quarter, second quarter. Let me watch the half. I'll bet the second half in football. I don't do that very often. I think you can. I think you could make a really good living doing that. You have a good feel for how a game is going. But same thing in golf. I just love that opportunity. And it's not very often that you can get Scotty Scheffler or any of those great players with really good odds entering the end of an event because they're awfully dangerous, as Scotty was in that one. Okay, so let's go with the Fed. I'm going to go ahead and just give my FedEx Cup champion, and just to make things different. So I'm going to actually go with the player who I'm going to pick today, and I'm going to do something that I'm sure Jared is going to be real shocked about. Not only did I take Xander Schauffele as my Player of the Year, but I'm going to take Patrick Cantlay to win the FedEx Cup. Both of these guys were similar up until, again, when Schauffele broke down his barrier, where they were very good and all that. But, hey, these guys hadn't won in a while. Well, Cantlay still hasn't won since 2022, so maybe he could break down those barriers the way Xander Schauffele did last year. So I'm going to say, why not? I'll go with Patrick Cantlay to win the FedEx Cup. And by the way, if you get a chance, Brady, let us know what the odds are at the Westgate for those players.
Patrick Cantlay to win the FedEx Cup at the Westgate Superbook. Boy, he's down the board. It appears. Let me see here. Oh, there he is. 30 to 1.
Okay, that's not bad. It's pretty good for a player of his caliber. Because Patrick is sitting right now.
He's won it before,
13th.
Right?
I believe so.
I think he has. Yeah. I think, maybe 4 years ago or so.
Yeah. Okay. Next up, Jared, who's going to win the FedEx Cup?
I'm going Justin Thomas to win the FedEx Cup. I think he's in for a bounce back year. We've seen him play well already this season. Really, if you look at, he went through a slump really for most of last year, especially early on last year. But his high-end approach play has really been back since last summer. Looking at the numbers, the off-the-tee game has been settling in. I think if he can, just be an average player off the tee, that's good enough when you factor in the fact that he also has an awesome short game. So I think Justin Thomas is in for a bounce back year. He's actually my pick to win this week at Pebble Beach, which would be a good start towards winning the FedEx Cup. But to me,
that's where we're both going.
He's nice, beautiful.
With our Pebble picks to win the FedEx Cup. Okay.
Perfect. If he's if Thomas is inside the top, 5 heading into East Lake, Justin Thomas has gained the most total strokes at East Lake over the last 5 years. So he's played well at that golf course. So I think if he's, within 2-3 strokes of the lead heading into that one, I like his chances to get it done.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good pick, Jared. And I kind of went along the same lines as you. I really like Thomas this year as well. But you talk about how well he's done at East Lake, of course, the site of the Tour Championship. And that's why I went with Xander Schauffele. Now, I'm a little bit worried he's missing his 3rd straight event here because of a rib injury. So it looks like it's going to be a slow start to the season for Schauffele. We don't know when he'll come back. But you mentioned Thomas over the last 5 years. I think it's over the last 10 years. The guy that's gained more strokes than anybody at East Lake is Xander Schauffele. He's just a machine around that place. So if he's, like you say, if he's in the top 5 there, and I think they talked about possibly switching that staggered scoring system this year. But however they figure it out, if Thomas or Schauffele are in the top 5, I think they're going to have a shot to win that.
Next up, and then you can give us the odds for the final 2 players there, Brady. Give us your pick, though, first. FedEx Cup champ.
Yeah, Schauffele, and he is. My screen just went off on me. He was the second choice. Sorry here.
Oh, so you had JT as your first choice?
No. Let me find it. Okay, so no, Schauffele is my first choice. He's the second choice on the odds board. Scheffler is plus 250. Schauffele is the second favorite at plus 650. Justin Thomas, by the way, 20-1, and Cantlay at 30-1. I was just saying, Thomas, I think, is a great pick by Jared, and kind of along the same lines why I made my pick, and it's because they're both really good at Eastlake Golf Club.
Okay, there you go. So once again, Cantlay, JT, and Schauffele for the FedEx. Good odds on JT and Cantlay, and Schauffele, Morikawa, and Matsuyama for Player of the Year. All right, so now we're going to go to Breakthrough Player of the Year, and this one is going to be basically a player that has either never won a major or a FedEx Cup or have never finished in the top 10. It could also just be a player that maybe is 200 in the world and he makes it into the top 50. Anything at all that you think that you're going to consider that would be a breakthrough type of player. We're going to go ahead and give that to you. And again, also while you're contemplating and you give the pick, feel free to, starting with you, Jared, feel free to say, these were other couple of players that I was thinking about putting into my list.
My breakthrough pick is Taylor Pendrith. He got his first win last year. I think he's going to win again this season at some point. I think he has the game to compete at majors, especially U.S. Open. I think he has a good game for the U.S. Open, PGA Championship maybe. If we, again, look at strokes gained total since the start of 2024, Taylor Pendrith 19th on that list. Some of the guys he's ahead of: Tony Finau, Sahith Theegala, Tommy Fleetwood, Wyndham Clark. Pendrith's been better than all those guys in terms of strokes gained total. He's always been a strong off the tee player. He's always been a strong putter. But what I like to see is his approach game is improving. If we look at strokes gained approach, if you look at, so the last 100 rounds, so that's going back a couple of years, he's averaging positive 0.33 strokes gained approach over that span. If we cut it down to the last 50 rounds, positive 0.44. Over the last 36 rounds, positive 0.51. So the trend line is up on Taylor Pendrith as an approach player with his irons. So if he can get that part of his game, continuing trending upward with the strong driving ability, with the strong putting, that's everything you need for him. It's, potentially be a top 10 player by the end of the season.
Oh, okay. Wow. And why not? If he could just keep up doing what he's been doing lately, he's definitely headed in that direction. Okay. So Brady, by the way, did you have any other players that you were thinking about?
Nope. Pendrith's my guy. All in.
Pendrith's your guy. Okay. Brady, you're next. Give us a breakthrough player.
Well, I don't know why you exactly replaced me with Jared, because I think we are reading each other's mail.
Oh, no.
Clones of one another, or I mean, we're on Thomas and Schauffele and Morikawa and Matsuyama. I like Taylor Pendrith for a breakout player as well, and I am on him. He was my number one. He was the guy that jumped off the page at me first and foremost this week for Pebble Beach. So Taylor Pendrith is my breakout player as well. And I don't know if he's my number one choice. I actually wrote down 4 names. I think Robert McIntyre is another guy that could really have a breakthrough season. I'll go with another Canadian. I think Corey Connors could be on the verge of, and Corey Connors has always been really good, but not yet great. Maybe he has a great year this year. And then a guy that's always been really good, but has yet to win on tour or the DP World Tour is Thomas Dietrich. And he is really starting to knock on the door. So yeah, Pendrith is a guy that looks pretty obvious where he is really surging, but I like these other guys too to have good seasons: McIntyre, Connors, and Dietrich.
All right, like it. Now, I'm speaking of Canadians, and once again, Jared and I talked about this player last year, and it's going to be Nick Taylor for me. Mm-hmm. And talked about how I just didn't understand with Nick Taylor's game, the way he's clutch, that if he could just be more consistent, he could really turn into a heck of a player. So now that he's gotten off to a good start, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt to say, okay, maybe this is going to be his breakthrough year. Maybe he's going to go out there. Maybe he'll win a major. Maybe he'll win 2 events. Maybe he'll do something that he's never done before. So Nick Taylor is going to be that player. And a couple other guys that I was thinking about. I was thinking about Batia. I was thinking about him to possibly break through. I just wonder if he's a little too young. I know Echeverria is a player I like. And I also wonder whether or not Maverick McNeely can win a major. I don't know what you guys think. And I was not a power player, but I wonder whether or not, he seems now he's got the win. And I wonder I know you like him this week when we talk Pebble, Brady.
Yeah, he's got a lot of upside. His career was really, taken off the rails for a while because of injury. And it's taken him a while to get back. And now he's starting to find his footing. Like you mentioned, he gets his first ever PGA Tour victory back in November at the RSM. He's got a lot of talent, has a tremendous short game. A major's a big jump, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him have a really good year and maybe add another win or 2.
Now we're going to go over 2 players who will get their maiden PGA Tour victory. So Brady, it's up to you if you want to. You can give them both if you like, or we can go one at a time. It's up to you.
Well, I mentioned Thomas Dietrich for possibly a breakout player this year. I think he's going to get his first victory. He's had a number of runner-ups. He's had a number of top 10s. He's had top 10s in big events. Guy's really good. He just seems to be too good to not have a victory. And maybe it comes on the DP World Tour. I don't know if that counts for this show, Greg. But I think Dietrich's finally going to kick the door in. He's been around a long time, longer than some people might realize. But I think this year he gets his first victory on either one of the tours anyway. And then another guy that's been awful close, you mentioned Batia. This guy finished second to Batia down in Texas. I think it was last year, and that's Denny McCarthy. I think Denny McCarthy's really close. I think it was at the Memorial when he lost to Victor Hovland down the stretch. So he's been close a number of times too. Those 2 guys for me, McCarthy and Dietrich.
All right. Am I next? I think I'm next.
You are?
Yeah, I'm next. Okay. I'm going to go, I tell you what, I'm going to do a little bit of a different take here. And that is, I'm going to go with 2 players who have never won a PGA Tour event. And you probably don't realize that, but one of them is actually going to be Cameron Young. So I know he's not playing well, but come on. I mean, he's got to get a win. Doesn't he got to? What do you got? Don't you think he's got to get a win this year?
I think so. He's got to be like he's got to be the most talented player without a win, right?
Yeah, he probably fits that category. But I tell you what, we'll have to see how the year goes along. But I'm not ready to bet on him yet. Another thing.
Right now, absolutely.
Another thing that's bad. I think he has 7 or 8 runner-up finishes. Incredible, and in big-time major tournaments as well. But I've started to see, and I don't know if I've seen this get better or improve, but the last couple of times where he's been in contention and come up short, I've seen some attitude that I didn't really like out of him either. Getting pretty hot and frustrated, and I think it was recently broke a club. This guy might need to mature a little bit before he finds that winner's circle, in addition to whatever else it's going to take.
Okay. Now this one is just going to be for fun as well, but I'm going to give you a younger player, but I'm just going to throw this one in there too. And that's Tommy Fleetwood. Mm-hmm. I mean, it is unbelievable that Tommy Fleetwood has never won a PGA Tour event. So yeah, I mean, it's like long overdue for Tommy. So maybe he's going to get that done. On the younger side, I will add one player, and that's a player who actually had a pretty good week last week, and that's Andrew Novak. Like if I was just going to go to 2 guys that were on a completely different level, not go with the hotshot guys, I would go with Andrew Novak, and I would also go with Bo Hostler, who I like this week. But what do you give me your picks, Jared? Give me your 2 PGA Tour maiden wins.
Yeah, my first guy is Max Grazerman, who last year was his first year as a full-time tour player, and he's already racked up 3 second place finishes. He's actually a little like Pendrith looking at the numbers, where he pretty consistently gains off the tee, and he's an excellent putter. It's the iron game that he needs to kind of shore up a little bit. He does have some like strong spike approach performances, so it's there. He just needs to be more consistent. So I think Grazerman gets a win at some point this year. My second pick, I'm going to go with Ben Griffin, who is another really strong approach player. His weakness is off the tee, so I think his win probably comes on a shorter, easier driving course. He's also a really good Bermuda putter, so he's a guy, once we get to the Florida swing here, maybe what is it called now, the Cognizant Classic or Valspar. I think those are good spots for Ben Griffin, but I think he's a guy who has the upside with the approach play to have a week where he just gets hot with the irons and ends up winning a golf tournament.
All right, love it. Now comes our comeback player of the year. And I got to get started here. So I have actually 3 players, but I'm going to obviously have to zero in on just the one. And so my comeback player of the year is going to be another one of my picks this week. I like the way he's playing now. Slowly he's getting his game back together, and that's going to be Ricky Fowler.
Okay.
So Ricky's going to be my comeback player. He's just too good to be hanging out. I know marriage has, because I don't care what anybody says, he changed this and he changed that to his game and this and that. But come on, the dude got married. That's the biggest obstacle. And it's now been a couple of years. So I think he's ready. I've already seen the signs. It takes a little time to get used to that. And I don't think he's going to disappear. He'd be one of these journeyman guys. He's way too young. So I like Ricky this year. Maybe that even means he'll win a major for the first time.
Well, I was just going to say, he's had a lot of success at Quail Hollow in the past. Is he your pick for the PGA Champion?
Well, there you go. I think I like that. Let's go ahead.
Big odds on him.
Yeah, right. That's right.
Oh, yeah.
We'll be taking a look at that in just a second. Okay, so comeback player of the year, Jared.
Yeah, I thought you were going to go with my guy here, Greg, because he's also playing well lately and has a win here before at Pebble Beach. I'm going with Gary Woodland as my comeback player of the year, which would be an awesome story with the
great
story
he's had. But yeah, I mean, just 16th at Sanderson Farms, 9th at Shriners this fall, 16th at Sony to kick off 2025. The ball striking numbers have been really good. He's gained off the tee in 8 straight now. He's gained on approach in 5 of those 8. So it just seems like he's, getting close to being back from, the health issues he had. He's obviously a proven winner before. So if he is healthy, I think Woodland can get a win this season.
Actually, the other 2 players I was thinking about for comeback player of the year, one of them was Will Zalatoris. I was thinking you might have done that one. Speaking of favorite players, and also Jason Day. I like the start he's gotten off to. He's definitely one of my picks this week. So all right, I like it. That's even a crazier, much better pick for comeback player of the year, Gary Woodland. Brady?
I went with this would certainly please a lot of people, including the PGA Tour and myself as well. One of my favorites that has kind of been off the blip for a couple of seasons, it seems. Last year he was dealing with injury, so he qualifies. That's typically where you find your comeback player, a guy that's returning from injury, which certainly Gary Woodland would qualify for. But that is Mr. Jordan Spieth. I'd love to see him come around, and I think he could have a good week this week. He's won here at Pebble Beach before. We really haven't seen or heard from the guy in a while, and wouldn't surprise me if he showed up and played well here this week at Pebble, where he's, like I say, won before.
All right. And that's the thing with Jordan is we just don't know. I mean, he's coming off that injury, and nobody has any idea what to expect out of him. But
right. So I said, why not? I mean,
yeah.
if he has a great year, do they even award a comeback player of the year? I'm not sure if they do, but if he has a great year, he certainly would qualify because he hadn't been around for more than a year, really.
You guys can pick a comeback player of the year on your show at the end of the season. That can be the official pick.
Okay, who will win a major for the first time? And go ahead. We're going to start with you, Jared.
I'm going Tyrrell Hatton, who I know he's been disappointing in majors so far, but I mean, I think he's a top 10 player in the world. I know it's tough to compare these guys at this point because Hatton's only playing on LIV in the DP World Tour. But I mean, his results on the DP World Tour. I mean, look at his last 5 results on DP: win, 2nd, 6th, 5th, and win. He's played fine on live. I don't really care too much about that, but he's been fine on live. I'm not sure where it's going to come. I guess the Open's probably the most obvious spot for him to get it. He played well at the Masters last year. I wouldn't pick him to win the Masters yet. Maybe at some point in his career, but I think Hatton's just too good to not start playing better in these majors.
Does he have the temperamental attitude to win a major yet? We'll see. Like you said, he's getting close, and he's playing really well right now. Okay, Brady.
To win a major, to win their first major. Correct? First major. I took two guys, Harris English and Robert McIntyre. Mm-hmm. I talked about Robert McIntyre as maybe a guy that's going to have a breakout year. He's finished first and second the last 2 years in the Genesis Scottish Open, which precedes the British Open. And that's no easy tournament to win. That's a pretty loaded field. He won the Canadian Open last year. He's had some top 10 finishes in majors in the past, including the British Open, including at Royal Portrush, where they're back at this year for the British Open. And then Harris English has finished top 8 in 3 out of the last 5 U.S. Opens, and of course adds the win last week to his resume at a U.S. Open type course, Torrey Pines, which has hosted 2 of them. So those were 2 guys that made some sense to me as kind of a surprise major winner.
Yeah, we remember that Scottish Open win by McIntyre, and it was almost had a major feel to it. That's how crazy and it was for those fans to have him win that one. And English, that's a more gutsy pick because it sounds like he has a great major resume overall. So,
well, yeah, but really good in the U.S. Open.
Sounds like that might be your pick then for the U.S. Open. We'll see. All right, before we wrap this up, I know Jared has to run. Jared, do you have your major picks? If you want, you could just give all your major picks right now before you leave.
Yeah, I'll just list them. No analysis, just the names. These are the winners for you. I got Colin Morikawa at the Masters. Not surprising if I'm picking him to win Player of the Year. He's going to have to win a major probably. His trend line at Augusta is excellent. So I think as long as he's playing well coming into that, he's a strong pick. I have Bryson DeChambeau to win the PGA. I have John Rahm to win the U.S. Open. I think he's going to have a better year this year in the majors. And then I went with Terrell Hatton to win the Open.
I guess if you're going to pick Hatton, that's the one to do it.
He had a good finish at Portrush last time he was there too.
Did he? Oh, perfect.
Yeah, I think he finished 6th.
Hatton, by the way, I'm not sure what his odds are for the Open, but now he has pretty big numbers for some of the majors. I think he's like 50-1 at the U.S. Open or the PGA maybe. I was looking at that the other night. I might end up firing on him for some of these majors.
I'm seeing only 25 for the British.
Okay, I'm sure
he's getting
deflated
there. Yeah.
Yep. Probably higher numbers at the others.
And before you go, I know we're going to be doing our Pebble Beach preview here in just a little bit. Jared, who do you like this week?
So I like Justin Thomas at the top of the board. I like Taylor Pendrith. I like Shane Lowry as a 65-1. I think I saw him at last check. And then I think Tom Hoge, you got to give him a look just with his history at Pebble and just the way he's playing coming into this.
Well, hopefully we'll get an opportunity to talk to you again. Either when is the next signature event?
It's 2 weeks.
Right.
Oh, geez, already. Okay.
Yeah. Back at Torrey Pines.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's another story on itself. And then, of course, the Masters is coming up. So we're going to have a lot of time this season with the signature events and or the majors to catch up with you, Jared. So I appreciate your time to do this 2025 season special. And we'll see you down the road.
Yes, great to be talking golf with you guys. Good luck this week and the rest of the year.
Thanks, Jared.
Jared.
All right, bye.
And again, just want to remind everybody, Jared, his full-time gig is with DraftSharks.com, a very nice fantasy football site. Matter of fact, they've been around for a while, but they've really just started to pick things up over the last few years, and Jared's a big part of that. Jared actually won an award last year. I don't know about 2024, but I remember 2023, he was at the top representing Draft Sharks as far as, the top overall fantasy writer who was able to, he was the closest to predicting where everybody would rank in the beginning of the season and how they ranked by the end of the season. I know there's a better way of saying that, but it just means that he knows his fantasy football. So anyway, so we'll be talking with Jared again later on this year. And this gives us the last few minutes to give our major predictions. So I tell you what I'm going to do. Let's pop up the screen here. And obviously we've got the Masters first. And so 18-1 is for Jared's Morikawa pick. Okay, let me do this so I make it a little bit easier. Okay, so Brady, go ahead and give us your pick for the Masters.
I have two. I don't know. I don't know if we're allowed to.
Sure, go ahead. You give two. As long as it's not Scotty Scheffler and Xander Schauffele. Yes, you can give two.
And I've already bet these. I actually bet these. I believe it was Saturday night before the final round of the Century in Kapalua. That's always been a highly correlated course with Augusta National and a very good indicator in the past. Jon Rahm, Cameron Smith have both won at Kapalua and done extremely well in the Masters. Of course, Rahm a winner and Cameron Smith in the final pairing once or twice, if I recall. So Morikawa and Matsuyama finished 1-2 at the Century this year, and I bet on them both to win the Masters. Morikawa, I got at 22-1, and Matsuyama, I got at 25-1.
Okay. And what were you touching up on with Rahm and Smith? Why did you bring them up?
Success at Kapalua at the Century. It was Cameron Smith that won the Century at Kapalua. I want to say that was about 3 years ago. And I immediately bet him to win the Masters. He was 40-1. And he ended up in the final pairing with Scotty Scheffler when Scheffler went on to win his first green jacket. And then Jon Rahm came back the next year to overtake Colin Morikawa at the Century in a miracle comeback and ended up going on to win the Masters that year, holding off Brooks Koepka. So you and I have talked about it, the strong correlation between Augusta and Kapalua, and we've seen it there very recently with guys winning both tournaments in the same season. In fact, St. Andrews is another tournament that's highly, or another golf course that's highly correlated with Kapalua. And the year Cameron Smith won the Century, he went on to win the British Open at the old course at St. Andrews. So a lot of connective tissue there. And that led me to Morikawa and Matsuyama to win the Masters this year.
And of course, Matsuyama, a winner in 2021. And
right.
The one thing, though, which remember this, and I'll keep saying it every year, and this is not a big knock. It's just the fact. And that is, remember when Matsuyama won it, it was the COVID, deal was going on. And when you take out the fans, it's
well, I don't know. No, I don't think that's accurate, Greg.
Well, Dustin Johnson also had that, right?
Yeah, he won it in 2020 when they had to move it to November. But I think everything was back in place in 21 when Matsuyama won it, as far as the fans, the patrons, I should say.
Yeah, I don't know about that. We'll double check. But anyway, either way, the fact is that his game is tailor-made for Augusta. And that's the whole idea. That's what's so great about Augusta and the Masters, is that even though it's the same every year and it's beautiful and all that, it is kind of nice that two things about it. One, that you have, it's like the one major that you feel like you have the best chance to handicap. And two, it's also an event where you can feel that, for sure that there are going to be some interesting long shots, because it doesn't matter how old you are. I'm just going to give a name out there, like an Adam Scott or a Justin Rose. Those guys are going to be really good long shot picks at the Masters, probably until they are not really capable of winning anymore, because they're so good at Augusta. And we've seen before many times at Augusta, doesn't matter how old you are, you can win there. Yeah,
no doubt about it, as evidenced by Bernard Longer. I remember, for years I would play Fred Couples at 100-1, and a couple times had him in the final pairing. He didn't end up going to win, but an older guy like to your point, Fred Couples was a a shot to win the Masters for a long, long time, into his 50s. And that's probably going to be the case with Mickelson. Maybe not Woods anymore because he's so hampered by injury. But no, you're right. Adam Scott, into his early 40s. Justin Rose, absolutely. Guys can hang around Augusta for a long time. Jack Nicklaus, right, at 46 years old.
There you go. That's as good as you're going to get there. Okay, which major one do you want to go over next? Do you want to go with the U.S. Open or PGA?
Well, according to the order that they play in, that's how I wrote them down. So PGA Championship, of course, now shifting to May, and this year will be at Quail Hollow, a familiar venue
There you go.
that we see year in and year out on the tour. The Wells Fargo Championship, and of course, was the PGA Championship venue in 2017 when Justin Thomas won. But I went with one of your guys that you've been on quite a bit early this year, a guy you're fancying for a successful campaign in 2025. I think he's going to have a real shot to win the PGA this year, and that's Jason Day. He has won at Quail Hollow before at the Wells Fargo Championship. He was 4th last year at the Wells Fargo Championship. He was 9th at that PGA Championship in 2017. And like I say, he won the Wells Fargo there in 2018 as well. The PGA Championship is the only major he has to his credit. Won at Whistling Straits in 2015. And, you talk about his game really coming around. It's really kind of been coming around for a couple of years now. And maybe he's ready to kick that door down again and not only win, but I think at that golf course, he ought to have a good chance to bag another major.
By the way, I didn't give my pick for the Masters, so I totally forgot.
I'm sorry.
No, I was the one who told you to go, and that was Cameron Smith. So that's the reason why I was wondering what you were talking about with Rahm Smith, because I had Smith. Yeah, he's another good one at Augusta.
And I think I saw him at 40-1, which is a pretty nice price too.
Okay, there you go. All right. Next up for you know what? I'm not even going to make this. You gave me a really good idea. If I'm going to take Fowler to win Comeback Player of the Year, and maybe even breakthrough, of course, and win a major, this is definitely the one to do it. And there's Ricky, I believe, at 100-1.
Yep. And I guessed that. I thought he'd be around 100. No, I don't think that's a bad pick at all. If he's in form, he ought to be good at that course.
And if he's in form, you can bet you that price that's going to drop considerably.
Yeah, it could be 50, obviously depending on how good a form he's in, but yeah, you might see closer to 50 or 40 or, somewhere between 40 and 60 closer to game time.
And then we've got the U.S. Open. So talk about where the U.S. Open is and what kind of a course we're going to be dealing with there.
Yeah, the U.S. Open is at Oakmont in Pennsylvania, which is oftentimes regarded as the most difficult golf course in America. It is really hard. And the last time we saw it host a major championship for the pros anyway, it may have hosted an amateur or something like that for the ladies. I'm not sure. But 2016 was the U.S. Open when Dustin Johnson won. And if you look at that leaderboard, it's a pretty interesting sampling of players on that leaderboard. Shane Lowry was right there. I believe he finished second. Jim Furyk was right there, who we know is a U.S. Open winner and a consummate U.S. Open type player. But it's interesting where you have Dustin Johnson, a bomber, and then Jim Furyk, a short, accurate type plotter player. So, and there was a lot of Jim Furyk type players on the leaderboard that year. Graham McDowell, I think, was there, who ended up winning a U.S. Open or had won, I guess, a U.S. Open at that time already at Pebble Beach. So there was really kind of a sampling. Even as difficult and as long as Oakmont is, there was some shorter, more accurate players on that leaderboard as well. So a real variety of guys that were on that leaderboard in 2016. But you're right. You guessed it earlier in the show. I went with Harris English, and I've already bet this as well, Greg. I bet him the other night before he won at Torrey Pines. I bet Harris English to win the U.S. Open this year at Oakmont at 150-1. He's got three, as I mentioned, 3 top 8 finishes in the U.S. Open in the last 5 years. And that was at Winged Foot, a very long, demanding golf course like Oakmont, Torrey Pines, where he finished 3rd, and then in 2023 at the Los Angeles Country Club when Wyndham Clark won. So he's clearly a U.S. Open type specialist. In fact, in 2016, when the U.S. Open was at Oakmont, Harris English finished 37th. So not too bad there as well. So yeah, is he going to win it? I don't know, but I don't think it's a bad bet or a bad guess anyway.
And look, it's if we're going to make these types of predictions, it is better that we go with some of the value plays, the bargain plays, because again, like we just said, with any of these players, which is why I'm sure you went with them now, is if they do get off to a good start, those odds are going to come down, and now is the time to take them. So we're not making these predictions for any other reason other than to say, hey, or one of the main reasons is to say, hey, if you like what you hear, or again, if you like your own player, do it now. Invest in it now. If you like a player to win this week and maybe their game matches up with one of these majors, well, go ahead and do it now before those odds drop. So again, especially if they win an event that you think that they might win. Okay. By the way, what did you have Day on for the PGA? What was his odds?
80 to 1.
Okay. Yeah.
And I already bet that as well.
Okay. Yeah. Actually, I was just double checking too, because I wanted to find out if he had played well here.
There's your leaderboard.
Yeah. And
Kevin Na, Summerhays, Duffner, Johnson. Those are really short, accurate Jim Furyk. And here they are, taming Oakmont, the big beast of a golf course in 2016. So yeah, a lot of variety on that leaderboard as far as types of players. And Dustin Johnson all the way at the top, a consummate bomber. So a little bit of everything there on that leaderboard in 2016.
And this is a guy that if he can play in a major it would be dangerous. Louis Oosthuizen. He just, it's hard when you're on live to qualify. Right. So it is what it is. That's what these guys signed up for. Okay. So you know what? I'm going to go ahead and take Jason Day in the U.S. Open. So I like the fact that he had a good showing there. That was one of the things I wanted to check out. He finished in the top 10 that year. And again, that I like him already this year. I'm going to be taking him for, I believe, the 3rd time already. So why not? Just like you're saying, I think he perfect idea to take him because I like him this week. And if he's 100 to 1 or in that range, which I believe he is for the U.S. Open, then that's what you do. You take him this week at the event if you like him, and then definitely throw some money on him at the U.S. Open, because I can guarantee you if he wins this week, I think those odds will be cut probably in half. So go ahead and take it now if that's the way you want to go about doing it. All right, Open Championship. What do we know about this year's venue?
Well, it's at Royal Portrush, which we saw 6 years ago in 2019 when Shane Lowry won, and your guy Tommy Fleetwood, the consummate bridesmaid, was 2nd. Brooks Koepka had a very good tournament that year. Rory McIlroy, famously in his own homeland of Ireland, missed the cut. Shane Lowry was the Irishman that got it done there on Irish soil. That's where Royal Portrush is. It's really the only open venue in Ireland these days. Seaside venue, true links design. I had a hard time with this one. And Jared picked Tyrrell Hatton, who I believe finished 6th at Royal Portrush in 2019. So he's got good history there as well. But I went with Colin Morikawa, who has a claret jug in his trophy case, the winner at Royal St. George's in 2021. Jared talked about, his player of the year, I think is the category that he placed him in, how good he's been, basically has been, the next best player to Scottie Scheffler the last couple of years. I'm a big believer in Morikawa. He really, Jared also talked about how he's really, cleaned up his short game, and it all seemed to come to fruition in regards to the short game at Augusta last year. All of a sudden, the scrambling was tremendous when he ended up finishing 3rd last year at Augusta. So I've already bet him to win the Masters. He's my pick to win the British. Maybe I'll get one of them, maybe both. And then Jared would also probably win his Player of the Year on Morikawa.
Okay. And again, the odds on Morikawa?
To win the British, I believe he was 18. Let me see if I can find that one for you. British Open.
Yeah, it should be
Open
right.
Championship on Morikawa. Yes, 18-1. I have not bet that one yet because this is the one I feel the most vague about. Okay. Morikawa, Matsuyama, I already bet both of them for the Masters. Jason Day, I bet for the PGA. Harris English, I bet for the U.S. Open. I need to do more research on Royal Portrush and what type of golf course maybe it equates to. What are some of the corollary courses for Portrush? We've only seen it one time in recent history, so it's hard to get a feel for exactly what this course is going to spit out as far as who's going to play well there. So I have not made a bet on that one just yet.
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and put my bet on one of your, and I think this is perfect because I don't see him on your list, of course. So I'm going to put him on your list or on my list to win a major, and that's McIntyre.
There you go. Yeah.
I believe he's about 40-1.
Let's see.
It's 40-1 on this board. So
I've got 50 here at the
50?
Superbook.
Okay.
Yeah, no, he's one of my guys that I think could win a major this year, and I almost took him here. He makes a bunch of sense. And if he's going to win a major, I think it probably would be a British. So I'm with you. I have no problem with McIntyre here at Portrush. And I think he finished, I don't know if you had that leaderboard up, but I think he finished top 10 here last year in 2019. Yeah.
He was sixth.
Yep. Okay, so maybe Hatton was 8th or something like that. They were both top 10, I believe. Oh, they both finished 6th. Okay.
Yep. Fowler was 6th. JT was 11th. Koepka was 4th. Finau, I remember the days of Tony Finau. Of course, you remember it too. How many times he kept getting close to winning majors. Now he's fallen back a little bit, but now he's winning some tournaments. So, that was always pretty crazy to see Tony Finau up there at the top of the leaderboard in a lot of majors early in his career. Mm-hmm. Okay, so there you go. I think I've got the only odds I don't have. Let's see. U.S. Open, Rahm for Jared and DeChambeau PGA, but I can go ahead and find those and put them up. Also, I think we have everything. And I just want to, as we're going to close out, I just want to, this is for anybody out there that wants to know who the next wave of great players might be, depending on how they played in college, amateurs, that sort of thing. So, give us a couple of names that you think are really good college players that we need to keep an eye on this season. I don't know. We may have already talked about them on previous shows.
No, these guys are real young and, very new on the scene, but they've had absolutely decorated amateur careers, and they both committed so far to SEC schools. Logan Riley is going to be an Auburn Tiger. Just 17, 18 years old. But like I say, an incredibly decorated amateur career. So we might not see him necessarily play a tour event or even a Korn Ferry Tour event for a year or two. But Logan Riley, keep an eye on that name. And then out of Encinitas, California, Southern California kid, Michael Reeby has committed to Vanderbilt. And, both of these guys have a number of high finishes as far as amateur tournaments. And they are both highly regarded in the SEC golf picture at both, of course, Auburn and Vanderbilt. Logan Riley and Michael Reeby, a couple of names that I was able to sniff out here as guys that are really on the radar of a lot of people that are looking ahead to the next 2-3 years on the PGA Tour and or the Korn Ferry Tour as possible big success stories.
How do you spell Reeby?
Riebe, Michael Reeby.
Got it.
And then Riley is Logan Riley. Riley is Reilly. And again, he's committed to Auburn, and Reeby is committed to Vanderbilt.
Okay, there you go. So a couple of players to be keeping an eye on for sure in a few years, and maybe this is the first
Yeah, it could be
time.
sooner than that. You never
Yeah.
know. These guys, like John Rahm, we were talking about the 2016 US Open. John Rahm played in that Open. That was one of the first times he showed up on anybody's radar, of course, playing at Arizona State. And then all of a sudden he was at the US Open at Oakmont in 2016, and he finished top 25, I believe. So, you might see Logan Riley and Michael Reeby here in a major championship coming up real soon.
Okay, so that's going to wrap it up for our season preview edition. Again, I want to thank Jared Smola for joining us. I'm sure we're going to see him again real soon. And we hope you enjoyed all of those predictions and analysis, what to look forward to for the rest. And there's a lot of the rest for the 2025 season on the PGA Tour to look forward to. And coming up, we're going to talk about Pebble Beach and the second signature event of the season. So stay tuned for that. Or of course, you can check out the other video that is available here on the channel. Of course, this particular show and video is going to be available. We're going to probably use this as often as we want because it's going to come into play almost all season. But for anybody that wants to just find out what's going on with Pebble, check out our Pebble Beach preview video, which is also going to be available pretty much at the same time.